Well, hello Disc Golf family. T-Box Media is excited to bring you the final round coverage of the North Island Champs, Taupo-nui-a-Tia Classic. I'm Jake Brennan in the combox, and with me, Mr. Henry Pearson.
Jake, always a pleasure to join you on commentary here with T-Box Media for the final round of the North Island Championships, and what a card we have to bring it home here in Taupo with our lead card, Maxime Tanghe, all the way from Belgium, the Muscles from Brussels. Leads the pack here at the North Island Champs, 15 under total after 2 rounds of play. And he's joined by 3 RPM boys.
First up, Simon Feasey. He's 4 shots behind, so a bit of work to make up. It's been a little bit since Simon's been on the lead card, but he's had a lot of experience, so it's good to see him back throwing with a smile on his face.
Jackson Sullivan joins his teammate Simon on the card. Jackson, a very well-rounded and well-regarded player here in New Zealand, putting together a very sharp tournament. He's had a little bit of lapse in form of late, but this is more like the Jacko we know.
And rounding off our card, New Zealand's highest rated, Levi Stout, equal 4th place, 7 down. He finds his way onto lead card for having the hot round in round number 2 and a lower PDGA number. Very exciting player to watch. And here we go. Hole number 1. It's a 171 metre par 4. Players will try and pump a drive straight out down the field and just pretty much give themselves an unobstructed upshot. It's one that a few of the players missed in round 1, and I'm sure, Henry, they'll be looking to rectify their mistakes and net a birdie.
Make a good point, Jake. It's a reasonably straightforward hole, but being your first, it tends to sometimes take 1 or 2 holes to really warm up into the swing of it. This hole, I think, will be attackable, and given our boys on our lead card today are the best of the bunch this tournament, they should be licking their chops, looking to card a birdie 3.
Mania with a 997 rating, currently sitting 15 down. Please give it up from Belgium, Maxime Tanghe.
Maxime over here with our good friends from NZDG Media, a European film and production crew who are visiting New Zealand to cover half a dozen events over our summer season. And an absolute bomber he is. That is a Discraft Force.
Yeah, he got that one a little bit low there, but that's still plenty of distance, well over 100.
Current 979 rating, co-founder, owner of RPM Discs here in New Zealand. Please give it up for Simon Feasey.
Simon, a contributor to disc golf in New Zealand for many years now in many different ways, and only 979 rated at the moment, but that doesn't say very much about his abilities. Frankly, he's a very talented player and has been for a long time.
Your third competitor, also from RPM, Team RPM, works at RPM, just 5 shots behind the leader. Originally from Sullivan, currently residing in Auckland. Please give it up for Jackson Sullivan.
Yeah, Jacko. And as you're saying before, Henry, Jacko's struggling for a little bit of form lately, but talking to him a little bit off the field, just talking about how he's found his love for the sport again, and he's out throwing again, and I think that's pretty much his return to form. That's what we credit that to.
Indeed, Jacko's been right up there with the best in the game here in New Zealand for almost a decade, perhaps more. And perhaps not surprising, Jake, that given he's played for that long, there is a bit of a wavering passion for the game.
Please give it up for Levi Stout.
Levi making his way up from Invercargill. RPM sponsored player. 3 RPM sponsored players on the card today.
And Levi, a very talented young player. He's 15 or 16 years old at the time of filming, and bound to go to Junior World Championships in the United States in June of this year, 2023. And he's played the hole very similar to how he did the other day in round 1.
Oh, is that the putt you want? hole number 1, final round.
Very low ceiling, but I know that Levi does zip them in towards the basket with a bit of pace, so he should be able to navigate.
I like this from Simon, if he gets a little bit of ground play.
Jacko here with the flick Kia approach. A Kia being a overstable 4-speed, kind of in the same slot as a zone or a harp.
I think in previous rounds we've talked about Max and how much power he has. You can sort of see from his stance, even when he goes standstill with that wide base, you can see how he generates his power through his legs and really translates his weight from the front foot to the back foot as he releases the disc. Jacko with the first birdie.
And a nice confidence booster from circle's edge to card his 3.
He'll be looking up at Maxime, who's just 4 shots in front of him. So yeah, he'll be looking to have a hot round here and really push for the win. I think he's in position.
With
Simon.
a guy of Maxime's talent, you'd think that Simon and Jacko are really going to have to put together something special to catch up with Max. But it's a long course and there's a lot of artificial OB surrounding the following holes, so anything can happen.
You make a good point, Henry. 21 holes on this course, so 4 shots can be made up quite easily. Maybe it's the same as a 3-shot difference on an 18 course, you think?
Hole number 2, it's a very long par 3 at 134 metres, probably playing a little bit longer than that in the mid 140 range. Players have to throw over and atop these bushy bushes here in the middle of the fairway. A hazard area can be found on the left hand side of the green, and an OB golf green is on the right hand side. Push one up into the circle and have a look for birdie. These players can do it with their length, not many others in the field can.
This looks like a carbon copy of the shot he threw in round 1.
It's good, mate.
You betcha, he threw an absolute pearler, didn't he, Jake, to what you might consider parked range.
Yeah, they have a bit more of a tester on that one, maybe circle's edge.
Simon now with a Kahu XG, popped out on a bit of hyzer and it's ridden up to flat. That's a very nice line, provided it pulls up.
Oh.
I think I spoke too soon, Jake.
You jinxed him, Henry.
Why do I bother doing that?
He's just Simon giving us his commentary on his own shot.
Stay there.
That looks like it could be headed in a similar direction to size.
Yeah. Simon, where's the
So
putter?
both Simon and Jacko will find the hazard area on the left.
I wonder if Levi's taken a bit of a wind read off that and he might start this a bit wider.
Holding a bit straighter for longer, Jake, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely how Levi gets his distance, sort of using that pop up and ride of the disc. It's even how Simon gets a bit of distance. Very different to Max's shot, where you see it's just all power, sort of goes from hyzer, maybe stands up a little bit, but really it's that one angle shot, such an advantage over the field.
Oh boy. That was a great chance to save his par from what almost might have been circle 3.
Henry, putting from hazard like this, does your mindset change with the putt? Do you feel more free to run it and feel more pressure to make it than making a birdie putt? Or
I'd say more pressure to make it than free to run it. I certainly feel like the pressure to save your 3 is at a premium on occasions like this where you find the hazard. I suppose, player dependent. Some guys really rise to that challenge, Jake, and others might find that the pressures are a little too overbearing. What about you? How do you feel?
Oh, definitely. I definitely run a lot more putts. Awesome birdie from Levi there. If I'm deep like that and in the hazard, I feel the extra pressure to make it. And probably because of that, I feel like I almost make more of those than if I'm putting for birdie. So as Maxime just taps out his par here, just a warm welcome to all our European viewers that may be tuning in. And if you enjoy the coverage, make sure to like and subscribe. I know Paul's trying to push 1,000 views, and it really means a lot to him, and we do really appreciate all your support here at T-Box Media.
Nearing in on 1,000 subscribers we are, and at that point we'll be able to monetize the channel, which would be such a wonderful thing for the growth of disc golf here in New Zealand.
Just two humble guys talking to Paul's excellent coverage. Really, that's all we are at T-Box Media. But anyway, hole number 3, par 4, 153 metres, very short. You're looking to get about 120 metres off the tee, which leaves you a blind upshot to a tucked in basket, which we still can't see. Not much to contend with here, maybe OB fence on the left, but really it's just put a shot out there on hyzer. And as the basket comes into view, you can see how it's away from a little bit of a slope here. OB is long, so don't find that.
A very attackable par 4. Our boys will be looking to make a birdie before moving on to the challenging par 5 fourth. Levi starts us off. Halo Destroyer from the tee.
Yeah, it's a little bit wide. I wonder if he meant to go that far and really challenge the golf green, or was actually playing for up there.
Well, we did see Levi in the first round, Jake, pump it into that hazard area, the OB area on the left-hand side of the fairway, so could have been a little overcorrection.
And that makes the hole so much easier when you can actually see the basket on your upshot. That's pretty much a jump putt. Simon opting for the flip up hyzer there. And he's toying. And I think he'll stay safe on that
scary.
one.
Jacko to round out our card after almost saving his par on the previous hole. I don't know what that is. I presume it's a co.
And I think that will mark us at 4 players safe. Yeah, I like that forehand play approach to the pin, just hyzering the disc into the hillside rather than getting the hyzer down away. It sort of leads for that backhand approach, leads for that skip, and you can often find yourself OB. Very challenging for a backhand dominated player.
So this tournament, the North Island Disc Golf Championships here in New Zealand, is one of 3 majors played in each calendar year. All 3 of those majors fall at the beginning of the year, which is the end of New Zealand's summer. For each of those majors, players will contest the tournament over 3 rounds, and we've enjoyed 2 rounds here at the Taupo Golf Club and 1 round at the beautiful Spa Park just across the road. A wonderful setting, frankly, Jake, for disc golf in New Zealand, one of the best in the North Island, and what a gathering we had on Saturday night to celebrate it all at the Taupo club rooms.
Very enjoyable. I think Haydn, the TD, needs to be congratulated a little bit for his job at making it seem like a community feel after the round. I feel like people played, people came, people ate, people enjoyed, people played the hole in one ace challenge, and it was just awesome. But anyway, here we move on to the very challenging par 5, hole 4. This hole has been known to eat people's lunch, Henry. Past years this was played as 2 islands, but now we just have 1 open landing zone at the front here, which players will look to challenge. That will lead them an upshot where they must decide whether they go for the pin in 2 or they lay up short of the trees. It's really a risk-reward hole. I think it's an excellent hole because it makes you think and makes you make a decision whether you are going to go for it. I think all the players on this card will have the power, but it's just what they decide to do.
This hole last year played at the same length with similar OB in play as a par 4 rather than the par 5, and we saw an incredible variety of scores carded on this hole as Levi finds the OB on the right hand side. He'll proceed to a drop zone a wee ways down the fairway at the end of this first island.
Yeah, last year we seen 9s, 10s. I don't know if did anyone par it last year? I'm not sure.
It might have been 1 or 2 pars at least. Back then you and I joke we were playing in the MA1 division, but I'm sure the MPO boys might have carded a par. I don't think there were any birdies.
Absolutely no birdies. But it's good, right? I think you need some holes that, you can't just birdie. Like, you've got to be, like, it really challenges those upper echelon players for the distance, for the accuracy and everything, and the birdie's not just attainable to most of the field. I think we need a few holes like that. Jacko going very wide on this and looking for it to come back.
And he finds a great spot there on the right hand side of the fairway to have a view at that second island as Max plays a very similar play to what he did on round 1, where he found some trouble contesting the right hand side OB, and he does fall safe in island number 2. Jake, we discussed earlier the sort of communal and welcoming atmosphere that was put together on that Saturday night and after the round here at the North Island Champs, and I think you're right in saying that the collective efforts of Haydn Shaw, the TD, and the Taupo Disc Golf Club, Ken Harris, Steve Lawson, and all of their very passionate members was very well received by the attendees at the tournament. What a wonderful event they put on, and I anticipate that this tournament will grow as the years come.
Absolutely. I mean, there always seemed to be something going on. There was always prize giveaways, there was grip bags, Zuka carts, hole-in-one challenges, there was an open bar for most of the evening, food trucks were there,
DJs on hand,
multiple disc shops, Winnow, everyone.
Pretty cool. So well worth a visit next year to the tournament, no matter what capacity it's in, whether it be a major or just a tour event.
And even when you were signing up, you can tell like the Taupo community was trying to get behind it as well. They were calculating stats, like who was coming, how much you were spending, where you were spending at hotels or whatnot. And I think if that all turns out positive, I'm sure that they'll be pushing for something like a New Zealand Championships here or another North Island Champs at least.
And so they should. It's certainly becoming the premier event here in the North Island. Our players seem to be navigating this hole quite well, and a few of them will have looks, at least outside looks, for their birdie as Levi flicks a Kia towards the basket, and he'll have a good look to save it after going OB off the tee.
Now I know we've got a lot of holes, Henry, but I feel like Simon and Jacko do need to get a little bit aggressive with their play. Jacko 6 shots back and Simon 5, so they're obviously looking for either Max to make a bit of a mistake or they've really got to push.
And even at this early stage, Jake, the both of them, Simon and Jacko, have lost a shot to Max. Gee, that was a good run. Sit down. Oh, that got close to that OB line. They have lost a shot with the bogeys that they carded on hole 2, so that gives extra incentive to really start pushing the button.
Yeah, I think those putts really just need to start dropping for Jacko. Now, we've seen it a couple of times for Max in tournaments past. Him on the putting green, he is known to airball the putt sometimes.
But a good catch on the right hand side of the chains.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. Just sometimes his putts, most of the time, it's dead bang in the basket, but then every now and again he just has that in the tank to just miss the basket and 2 or 3 putt it.
You're right, Jake. Maxime held the lead there for some time at the New Zealand National Championships earlier this year in Invercargill, and in the early stages of the back nine of the final round, which I'll have to divulge in just a second, at the early stages of the back nine, Max carded a 4 putt on the par 5 11th to relinquish his lead, which was a bit of a shame, but so who knows what we can see in this round. We're moving on to hole 5. It's a par 3, 125 metres. There's 2 options: straight down the guts and run the risk of going OB left, or a hyzer play out to the right hand side and through the lineage of trees towards a basket that narrows with OB on both sides. Long at 125 metres, so players will be having to throw at least a fairway driver, if not a distance driver. And I suspect that the wide and sweeping play is going to be preferred by our card.
Absolutely, with the power on the card, especially Max. I mean, he's going to go one angle hyzer at this. Levi taking that inside and hoping it doesn't skip. He'll find the OB. That's going to leave him a lengthy putt to try and save his par. I think Max will look to push this a bit wider and just stand his force up a little bit.
It's got a bit too much height, I think. And he does run the risk of going OB. He's joined Levi on the left hand side. He'll have at least a C2 look to save his par.
Jacko giving it a bit more height than I thought he would. Looking for it to come back. And that's not a bad play. I don't mind that play, Henry. Giving it the height means it spikes a little bit more rather than lower skip play. So that might have been what Jacko was playing for, actually.
Yeah, not a bad point, Jake. I think the excess height that Jacko gave his is probably pretty reasonable, but you do run the risk if you throw it on a similar line to how Levi and Max did theirs, of pushing way too far left and allowing the disc to just hyzer out too much.
I suppose Jacko sees that Max has gone OB and then he thinks maybe I don't need to attack the pin, maybe I just play for par and I'll claw one back on him and get a little bit closer, take that lead from 6 down to 5 and move on.
And one of the easiest threes you'll see on the day. Max quite a bit closer to the basket than we thought. He's 13-14 metres away from the basket to save his par.
And he nearly does so. That's 2 top of the basket hits in 2 holes that Max has had.
I was going to say, Jake, both of them dead on line, but just a little bit high. As Sai cleans up for his par. So the lead goes back from 6 to 5. But we're still at the very early stages of the round, so I suppose anything can happen, but he is quite a way ahead, isn't he, Jake?
Yeah, either something needs to happen, a push needs to be made from Jacko and Sai, or even Levi, or he needs to make a bit of a mistake here. So as long as he keeps solid, I think he's got this in the bag. Speaking of being solid, the very challenging par 6. This can eat your lunch, as we've seen from our feature card in round 1. 148 metre par 4, but don't let that fool you. There are challenges to the hole. OB right the whole way around. Players will try and hyzer around the Mando and try and finish up past the pine tree that we see on our right. There's a hillside on our left. That is the premium landing zone. If you land there, you've got a clear look, open look at the pin, and it's only about a 50-60 meter shot in with unobstructed landing in circle 1. I found this hole did get a bit windy. It sort of was quite open in the pin area, so I think putting it close is going to be key. Jacko looks like he's eyeing up the hyzer line.
It seems like a smart play to throw a very similar shape to what Jacko threw on the previous hole, a very high hyzer out into the fairway of the golf fairway to the left of the screen off the tee. That just opens up the green a little bit more, Jake.
Absolutely, yeah. Was that your play on this hole, Henry?
It was. I threw a stable destroyer out and around that pine on the right hand side of the fairway, and then let it push as far left as possible to open up the green. Gee, Si flirted with that Mando a little bit, didn't he?
Very lucky for that. He almost just flicked it. He didn't really get hold of it or anything. No follow through, but he'll still have an upshot from there. Pretty much don't miss the Mando, land safe, and at 148 meters I think you've still got a shot. This looks good from Levi.
That is the shape to throw on the hole, provided he's not in that tree. Perfect, isn't it? Wonderful shot. Next now with his trusty force.
Wow, looks like he got over on that one a little bit. Is it going to come back?
It's got to hurry.
Oh,
good. He wasn't too far away, was he?
Do you think he looks impressed?
I don't think he's particularly chuffed. Maybe confused, Jack.
It looks like he's going for the pin on this one.
Well, that might have to hurry as well. Oh, no way.
Well, we spoke, Henry, about something needed to happen to change the status quo, and I think it just has. Max will be throwing his third shot with 2 OBs, and he's still 100 metres away.
So this now, with the 2 penalty strokes he's taken, would be his 5th. And that looks like on a very similar line to his
That's going to be
previous
close.
shot. Oh my. That, Jake, can't have been much more than a foot away from that OB line. Imagine, he wouldn't have crossed again. And would have probably had to play his 7th shot from exactly the same spot he just threw his 5th.
Yeah.
A somewhat of a disaster, but not an absolute disaster. He does have quite a buffer.
Interesting shot choice from Jacko, taking the over-the-top hyzer instead of a flick Kia approach. Even myself, highly dominant backhand player, I decided to go forehand approach to the pin. I just felt like it opened up. And Levi as well. I'm very surprised about this.
Oh.
Unless it went in, and then I'd have to eat my words.
So we know that Maxime's shot is just outside circle 1, and this is to save a double bogey 6. Jacko's parked in pretty tight for his birdie 3. Oh, and what a putt.
Needed that.
So a bit of damage on Maxime's card with a bogey on the last and a double bogey on this hole. Started the day on 15 under, so 1 back from where he began on hole 1, and Jacko makes the most of Maxime's blunder.
That's a 3-shot swing on 1 hole. Just sort of reminds you anything can happen really, so stay in it right to the end.
Si right there with him. So all of a sudden the tides have started to turn, and what was a 6-shot deficit 2 holes ago has become a 2-shot deficit, and we've got 3 players right in the mix, Joe.
That just makes things exciting, Henry.
Hole number 7 is a 102 metre par 3. The left hand side of this fairway is very open, and players will throw either a forehand or a turnover backhand into a reasonably wide open green. The real challenge here is that off the tee you can't feel any wind sweeping across this fairway because there's some bushes that guard the right hand side of the tee block, but given the fairway is quite open, wind can really challenge the disc here. So it takes a keen eye to notice how the wind's going to affect the disc on this hole, and that looks like a very tidy shot from Jacko off the tee.
Question, Henry, is this the easiest par 3 on the course?
It'd be pretty close, I think. There's a couple of par 3s that spring to mind late on the back nine. Holes 17 and 18. Particularly 18, I think, that play pretty straightforward. You wouldn't see many bogeys on those holes, or this hole for that matter, but you'd sure see a few birdies carded. The 18th being a downhill par 3, left to right, roughly 90 metres. And only allows for a chippy forehand. Do you get any others spring to mind, Jake?
Well, I had this one pegged as one of the easiest holes. It'd be interesting to see how it played at the end of it, but that from Levi is pretty much how you want to play the hole.
Beautiful
Drifting
shot.
turnover backhand. I wonder what that disc was. We might get to see it here.
It's very similar to the Tuis that he putts with, but that is an almighty huck with a Tui, if it is one, to push it up into the circle from 100 out.
Didn't even hit the circle short.
Maxime's had the pleasure of picking up a few RPM discs on his travels here in New Zealand, and that's an RPM Ruru, a straight to understable 3-speed putt and approach disc.
Isn't it cool when like overseas players come over and they just start like, you know, throwing RPM discs, like, you know, something New Zealand? We've seen it with Nate Perkins, and even in his latest stuff, the Throwing Down the Mountain with Paul Macbeth, he was talking about his giveaways with the RPM discs, and you know, I think it's awesome just putting New Zealand on the map. I mean, after travelling a bit myself, some people around the world don't even know where New Zealand is. Like, you know, they think it's off the coast of England or something like that, and just to put us out there, I think it's awesome on the disc golf scene. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's pretty cool. We talked a little bit the other day, Jake, about how there's been limited international influence here in New Zealand disc golf for a wee while, and only in the last couple of months have we seen some overseas visitors come and check out what New Zealand has to offer. We had Drew Gibson here in November, come down to play the Bros for Change Charity Classic, and Nate and Maxime have obviously played some very respectable golf here in the last couple of weeks. So exciting times, I think, in New Zealand disc golf, to have lots of talent come here and challenge the best of New Zealand.
Speaking of challenging, the very challenging hole number 8. This is one that players will look to get an easy par, or in my opinion a challenging birdie. Only at 103 metres, but low tight gap off the tee and low ceiling long as well. This tree that you see coming into screen now is going to be about 15 metres short, so hit that and you will find yourself at circle 2. I think what you want to do is push something low and skippy, and skip in under the tree close to the pin. Henry?
This I would have thought, Jake, was somewhat of an attackable hole, at least for our lead card, but you're right, that little low ceiling off the tee and a couple of those guardians at the green can negate an opportunity to secure a 2 with a fairway driver in hand, maybe a hooyer. Jacko steers the disc down the fairway.
Yeah, it's that tree, isn't it? That one that's 15 metres out. You need to keep it low for 90 to 100 and push straight. Levi just getting that too low.
We just turned over.
Henry, how do you like to play this hole?
I threw a straight to stable fairway driver down the right hand side at that slightly brighter coloured tree on the right of screen, and then let it skip up towards the circle. I think I had a birdie in one round and a par in another, where I just missed a short putt, so seems like the right way to play it. Maxime's chosen a very overstable disc there and attempted to throw it on Anheuser out of the hand. It looked like that mutant that he's been
I
bumping
agree.
up and down the country. Sorry.
So I agree, Henry. I think looking to pump something out to the right hand side and catch the edge. I think if you get it too straight, it's not going to skip in that hyzer fashion.
What type of disc are you throwing?
I threw a Thunderbird, but I think it was a little bit too beaten in. I didn't catch the edge and I didn't get that skip, and I left myself deep circle 2 out to the right.
Simon with a little nudge there from 15 to 20 out, and all of our guys will clean up their pars on this hole. So just a reminder, we're navigating a 21 hole layout here for our final round at the North Island Championships, and we'll be bringing you the round in 10 hole and 11 hole slots, so do stay with us for 2 extra holes on the front 10. Hole number 9 is one of the more challenging holes on the course. It's a par 4 at 210 metres. Players will be pumping a driver as far as they can into the fairway area where these 3 trees in screen now are. This is roughly 120-125 metres off the tee. The approach shot is really where it gets difficult. There's a significant area where the long tussock sits that is marked as a hazard. Players will have to throw up and over that hazard with a hyzer finish to the left to a green that sits behind a very large guardian tree. This hole played is one of the more challenging holes in round 1. We saw very few birdies, even one I think, for our MPO field, so it will be very interesting to see how our lead card tackles it in much better conditions today, our final round.
You said it well, Henry, a challenging hole, and what I like about the hole, it's a score separator. So I think the scores will change and the status quo will be altered. Speaking of birdies, Levi, one of those players to card the birdie in round 1. Let's see if he can replicate.
I really like that line, but thinking that it just needs to be a little more turned over out of the hand to push through that gap. It's very common on this hole to hit one of those trees and find yourself under the low ceiling, which reduces the possibility of throwing a high hyzer over the hazard area.
Simon going roller, and that looks fantastic, Henry. And unfortunately,
he did everything right except miss the roots of that tree at the end. Oh gosh, that is launched. Get around everything.
Well, that makes it easier.
What an advantage Maxime has on this hole to pump as far as he has and as right as he has to open up the green. He won't require as sharp of a hyzer to get up there to the basket. This looks like an interesting play from Jacko. He's got a minty pecker, stable pecker.
Wow, he's going low gap. It's got to move. It's got to move.
And it does get there. An exceptional break to miss that tree and in such a way not to drop in the hazard. He'll have a look for the elusive birdie here on hole number 9.
I think it might be safe.
I believe I put a bit of zip on that one. That was Kahu, I think.
He'll give himself a just probably outside circle, maybe 12-13 metres.
I know we said it in round 1, Jake, but isn't Maxime just looking dashing today?
Dapper, we might even say.
Exceptional. The sense of steeze, elegance, that the Maxime has brought to New Zealand disc golf's fashion on the course is just something to be marvelled at, Jake.
Perhaps as being part of the Winnow team, Henry, you might suggest that all Winnow players now dress fairly formally as they attend tournaments.
Well, funny you say that, Jake. I've created a mood board for the Team Winnow outfits or uniforms for the coming season, and all of them are just screenshots of maps from our T-Box media coverage this weekend with various angles.
I think some of the Winnow boys might have to do a few more squats before they fill out a shirt like Max does.
We do have some scrawny, including myself, some very scrawny figures on our team. So gym work and then some fashion training might be on the cards, I think.
Also a haircut and maybe some highlights too for the boys.
Yeah, the frosted ends, is that
Absolutely.
what you're suggesting, Jake?
I think Jay Watkinson would look fantastic with some frosted tips.
Let's send him to the States with them. How about that? That can be his debut.
I think we want to represent New Zealand very well, actually. I think that would do well. Maybe a rat's tail, perhaps. I think that was in fashion for a while. So
was it? I don't ever remember it being in fashion.
You never had a rat's tail?
No.
Oh, I had a rat's tail.
I was never a scucks, Jack. I don't know about you.
I don't even know what that word means, Henry. Oh. I'm too old for this.
You're too cool. Shall we get back to the action?
Anyway, Jacko here for a putt.
Ooh, that was a chance to make one up on Maxime and would have tied the lead up at the top. I think he knows it too. Jacko probably understands where he's at now in the swing of things. And Maxime, like you said earlier, prone to have a few putting errors on the greens. He's missed one from short to save his par. So Jacko, what he might have thought was a missed opportunity is still going to be a stroke gained on our leader.
He could have taken the lead there, and yeah, like you said, I think he knew that.
And just like that, things starting to get very interesting here at the North Island Championships. Jacko and Maxime now tied at the top. Sai, unfortunate to drop back. He would have been right there in the mix too had he made his par.
Max finds himself +2 in the last 6 holes. Very unusual, but I think it just makes things interesting here. Coming into hole 10, another of a par 4, one of many par 4s, 206 metres. I think this one's an attackable hole. Something about, once again, 110, 120 off the tee. There is a double mando to contend with. You'll see the 2 big trees on the right and on the left here, and then it's a low ceiling approach, so players will either look to play something wide out to the right hand side, hyzering in, or a low skip shot coming into the pin here. One of the more challenging par 4s, Henry, do you think?
I think the tee shot is the key here on this hole. If it's quite easy to push your disc far to the left on this shortly mown fairway, and the more left you push, the more cut off you get from that mando. So a great drive is one that sits pretty much between the 2 mando posts, and Jacko might be a little bit left, but not far enough left that he's going to have cut himself off too much.
And I think the tree that's straight ahead of the tee off that you can see in the screen right now, it's a bit of a tease. I mean, it doesn't really come into play, but it definitely makes you think about your shot just that little bit.
We were unfortunate enough to see Jake in round number 1, Sebastian Faulkner, square that tree up and advance only 2 to 3 metres off the tee. He didn't have his best day, but has fought back, I think, in subsequent rounds. This is what I'm sort of suggesting. Maxime will be a bit too far left there to have a comfortable throw through the double mando towards our basket. Never knows, he could throw a hero shot up and over the mandos, and that's more like it from Sai. That's dead in the centre. A great position to be in to attack this green.
Jacko showing us that low skip play, and he needs to beat the tree, and he does. He's still going to have a bit of a tester there, but that's in a puttable range, Henry.
Jacko really starting to put together a tidy front 10. He's carded 3 birdies in the last 7 holes and has a putt to move to 14 under here on the 10th. With Maxime out of position on the left hand side, it seems unlikely that he'd make his birdie barring a really exceptional shot.
And Levi comes into play here. He'll have a putt for birdie. Do we start talking about Levi having a chance of taking this tournament out?
He's 4 back and we've got 12 holes to go after, well, including this hole. That's a great shot from where he was. He must have been not quite as pinched as I thought he would be. So he's going to secure a birdie for sure. That's a mutant. Very overstable mid-range disc.
That kind of made it 40 metres from his hand before that skipped.
He's picked that part of the ground there underneath that tree that's going to allow for that skip, isn't it? If he had have hit grass instead of pine straw.
Outstanding from Levi. That must have been well outside the circle.
Yeah, if Maxime had have hit grass, it probably would have pulled up quite quickly and never really made it to the circle. And what a putt from the young man Levi from deep C2 to secure a birdie. You said before, Jake, that whether or not we consider Levi as someone in contention now, and he's definitely pulled his way up in this round close to the lead. Probably no thanks in part to Maxime's challenges in the last few holes. I don't know that I'd rule him out, but I certainly wouldn't say that he's in the mix just yet. With Maxime parked to move to 14 down. Jacko makes sure he keeps pace with Max. And that'll do it for our front 10 here in the final round of the Taupo-nui-a-Tia North Island Championships. The story of the front 10 so far: Maxime Tanghe, our leader after 2 rounds, really struggled in the middle section of the front 10. He's dropped back a bit. Jackson Sullivan cards a great front 10 to move up, and it's all tied up at the top at 14 under. Jake, your thoughts on the front 10?
Fantastic. I mean, in previous tournaments there might have been 1 or 2 people in contention. Here we have 3, if not 4, and even Jay Watkinson putting himself at 10 down. Let's not forget about him. Francis Orange there at 9. He's got the hot front 10 so far. So, I mean, keep a side eye on him, but very exciting, Henry.
All will unfold on our back 11 in this, the final round of the North Island Championships. Do stay with us here at T-Box Media for some action as we come down the home stretch. We will see you shortly for the back 11.